So there's a little bit of a bite to you as a manager that you need to have, especially at a club like Celtic. Just that little bit of like chest puffed out. Dundee United 2, Celtic 1. Another huge result in terms of that feeling of that old firm or the Celtic dominance anyway. Really, really starting to crack and really, really starting to crumble in the state of Scottish football. If you just take the game as a context, I mean, anyone that watched it, Celtic could have and probably should have been 3-0 up at halftime, maybe potentially more. But you're not. You're not. And I think that teams now, this is the big thing, right, guys? This is the big thing for me, okay? It's not so much necessarily about quality of player. That comes into it. Does Celtic have the same qualities of player that they had even when they almost knocked Bayern Munich out last season in the Champions League? No, right? It's digressed. Absolutely no question on that. But the big thing for me is that when the fear goes, when we've all played, if you played football, if you've coached football, if you've been involved in football, you're a fan, whatever it is, right? When the fear goes, teams know they'll get something against you. They just do. And it's really, really hard to get that. To get that back, you need to go on a 4, 5, 6, kind of 7-game run again and people to be like, oh shit, they're back, right? They're back. But when the fear goes, I've seen it with my own team, Liverpool. I've seen it with Man City probably the last year or two, where teams just don't fear you as much and they start to come at you a little bit. And it's like a psychological, mental thing for the fans, the players, the club to get to grips with of the reality of where you are. And especially Celtic, who have just consistently dominated and dominated and dominated for God, however knows the last many years. Like that shift is just so difficult, right? And the demands at that club we know are what they are. But the fear is gone. Dundee United come out in the second half and it's the complete opposite. They batter Celtic and they, if anything, should maybe have more than a couple of goals as well. And Celtic just don't have that resilience at the moment of the phase that they're in to be able to kind of batten down the hatches and get through it without conceding a goal and it going 1-1, and then the pressure starts to mount on you. The fans get frustrated again. You think this is happening again. We're going to lose, and Dundee United get a quick second. And from there, it just felt inevitable. It did feel inevitable. But even when Celtic were doing that in the first half, this is my point about the fear, I still thought it's only 1-0. Dundee United are still in this. Dundee United are still in this. And this is the problem they're going to have to overcome, and this is the problem that Nancy is going to have to overcome. You know, his interview after the game, I watched it, about 8 minutes long, and he was quite like one-toned and one-dimensional, and he's talking about, you know, the coaching side of things, about how he feels as if they are where they are and that they're getting there and they're working and they're close, and the first half was really good, and bar 3 minutes, they win the game. And yeah, he's not wrong, right? He's not wrong, but the reporter asked him a really good question at the end about, like, the fans not singing your name and stuff like that, and singing, I think, Martin O'Neill's name at the end. You know, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like they have your backing? And his body language, Nancy's body language completely changed. He kind of stepped forward and he upped his tone and he upped his tempo of talking. And I thought, right, so there's a little bit of a bite to you as a manager that you need to have, especially at a club like Celtic. Just that little bit of, like, chest puffed out. And, look, I know it's English probably a second language and everything like that, but I thought, oh, okay, there's a little bit in you, but that obviously poked him a little bit and that frustrated him a little bit. Like, you don't have the time. I'm not going to go over this again massively, but you just, like, I get it as a coach, like, you're coming in and you want to instill your ideas and your philosophy and stuff. And there's a lot of talk about, like, he needs to get his players. It needs to be his players. And we say this all the time about managers coming in at clubs and stuff like that. And I get it. Of course they do, right? You need to analyse the side. You're in a position that you're in because some of the guys there probably aren't good enough. But the best do it and get the most out of what they've got and still can almost overachieve with those players. And then through winning, right, with those players and overachieving, you earn the right through the fans, through the board and everything to get your back in, to be like, right, I want these guys out and I want these guys in. And then it takes time, window after window. But you just don't get it at Celtic, and you certainly don't get it in the position that Celtic have been, where they've been success, to the point, as I said earlier, about almost knocking Bayern Munich out the Champions League last season. But to get from that point to where they are now, it's just been a very, very quick downward spiral. And you're just not going to get time to implement style, mate. You're just not, and he needs to realize that right away. And I always say this, guys, like, you can still do what you want to do, but maybe here and there just do something that's just going to get you a win. And I think that like short term, it's that kind of like business planning, right? Life planning, short term, medium term, long term. Like the short term is to win. The medium to long term is along the way you embed how you feel the game should be played and how you see the game. The best managers also just adapt to what is in front of them in the game and in the moment, right? Whether that's part of their philosophy or not. And if he's not learnt that now after these 4 defeats, then he's really going to struggle. But look, again, all the headlines and all the talk there is just going to be about Celtic. Of course it is, but well done to Dundee United. Deserved victory. They've been on a really, really poor run of form, and that gets them out of it, and can that kick them on and get them going again? But yeah, Celtic in a really, really tough spot. And they play Aberdeen on Sunday. And Ali, you sent this, mate. I'm going to give you credit for this. But if we just have a look at their record, if we have a look at that record, I mean, whoa. Aberdeen do not have the best record there at Parkhead. It's 5-1 Celtic, 6-0 Celtic. We got 2-2 in there, 6-0 Celtic, right? 5-0 Celtic, 4-0 Celtic, 2-0 Celtic, 2-1 Celtic, 1-0 Celtic, 1-0 Celtic. I mean, that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's in the last 10 games. I mean, woo, that's not good, is it? That is not good. It's not a good result. I think, what did you say, Ali? They're 14-1 to beat Celtic there. But look, Aberdeen are also 4 wins in their last 5. Right, and Celtic are on the form they're in. I mean, that's surely worth a little bit of money to be chucked on it there, but it's not a good record there at Parkhead, and, you know, Nancy needs to make sure that it stays that way, but Aberdeen will be coming into it full of confidence. And, like, for Hearts, which we'll get onto in a second here, because they do have Rangers at the weekend, but, I mean, Rangers, for me, are a little bit more of a threat than Celtic are right now for Hearts, to be quite honest with you. Celtic are just in an absolute spiral, and they need to get things going there. I mean, look, let's take a look at the league table while we're at it, okay? Here we are. I mean, as I said, I just feel like Rangers are more of a threat right now with their run of form than Celtic are. Rangers have got 3 wins in the last 5 in the league and have definitely improved domestically under Danny Role. I mean, the noise has gone away from them, right? The noise has gone away from them 100%, and it's all on the rival Celtic, which they'll absolutely love. As I said there for Celtic, Aberdeen, have got, 4 wins in the last 5. 4 wins in the last 5 coming into Celtic. Hearts and Rangers on Sunday at Tynecastle is just humongous. Hearts shouldn't be feared of this Rangers team, right? They're definitely better than the one that they played in the moment that they played them in. And we talk about that a lot on this kind of podcast YouTube channel. That when you play teams in specific moments is just huge in seasons, and it's, you sometimes get lucky and you sometimes get unlucky with it. But Hearts have got Rangers in a lot of a better spot than they did when they first played them. But it's a huge game, and they have to be coming into it feeling absolutely confident and feeling like they can get the win there. And I mean, that for me, across Scotland and England, is the game of the weekend again. Scotland, and it's becoming more eyes and the more interesting league to really look at as each kind of game week goes on here. Especially when Celtic continue to lose. I mean, that is 4 losses for Celtic now, and it's crazy, but it's cool. It is cool, and you know, the mentality and the fear and the old firm kind of stranglehold feels like it is cracking, and it is loosening. And look, that doesn't mean that one of them won't go on to win the league this season. It's a big ask for Hearts to do there, but you look at Hearts, it's 1 loss, it's 34 goals, it's only 13 goals conceded. I mean, they are flying, and with a little bit of a sticky patch with a loss and 2 draws in the last 5, but they've come off to it with 2 back-to-back wins, and they feel like they've got that momentum going again. They didn't slip and completely crumble when Celtic were hunting them down under Martin O'Neill. So huge for them, huge for them. I think they've crossed 1 hurdle, they've passed 1 test, and here's another one again. I mean, they have the opportunity to go to, 41 points. I mean, just would be massive, and I know that would still put Rangers and Celtic with just 1 game in hand, but it would be massive for Hearts, and it would allow them a little bit of room to maybe slip up at some point in the season, which you are going to do, especially when you go through a little bit of a bad patch, and they will go through that again. So big game for Hearts and Rangers. That'll be part of my weekend predictions there. And Scotland, by far right now, so interesting. I absolutely love it. I'm buzzing for it. I'm absolutely here for it. Premier League fixtures. Just going to focus on the ones that I feel are the kind of most interesting, and it's the telly games this weekend. It's Newcastle and Chelsea at 12:30. A lot of bad things about Eddie Howe at the weekend for Newcastle. People didn't like how he attacked that game, me included. I really feel like he should have stepped to it. I feel like that was a misstep with him. And look, I don't want to keep going over the same points about it for Newcastle, but I'm still, that question hanging over me is like, is Eddie Howe still the man to keep you guys going. Like, has he done what he's going to done? Is he going to get you any further? That's not to undermine what he has done for Newcastle. Champions League twice, right? The League Cup win, absolutely massive. Like, I'm not undermining it. Amazing from him, amazing achievements. But football's always about what's next, and the fans always want more, and the club always want more, and the players even always want more, right? And you can't just sit there and be comfortable with kind of continuing to be where you're at. And it just doesn't feel like he's able to kick it on. And I know fans will say they're hampered with the new rules and stuff like that, but I think then the rules are then changing again next season. And look, you just have to go with the ebbs and flows of that. But Langa, who would seem kind of like got that a little bit, like strengthened that right-hand side, but for 55 million, has he been much better than Jacob Murphy? Probably not. You know, he was really good at Nottingham Forest, Alanga, but inconsistent. Probably a reason, you know, Man United didn't keep him, even though United aren't exactly in the best spot either for players to improve and everything. But I don't know. I just think we're still there with Eddie Howe, and I just think that is he the man to take Newcastle forward? And it's a home game, and they've been a lot better at home against a Chelsea side who we know are very inconsistent, and they have their own problems. And Maresca spoke out last week before the game. It's been the hardest 48 hours he's got at the club. And I think it will be because of that inconsistency of when they feel like they're in the mix, they always just seem to dip down. Like, who is that on? Is that on Maresca? Yeah. You know, is that on him? Absolutely. Look, he's decided to take that Chelsea job, and they work how they work, and you have the players that you have, and you have to try and find a way to keep all those guys happy, and that's where it's at. I like Maresca. He's shown that he can come up against the best in one-to-one games, but can he get his team consistently going for league titles? And look, he might sit here, and I'm sure he probably would sit here and say what I think too. That defense and that goalkeeper is not ready to win a league title yet. I think the midfield, yes. I think the attack could have enough to keep you going and get you enough goals. Still feel like they need a really kind of solid like 9 or just like a solid goal scorer up top there. You can maybe say Palmer's that guy, but for me, he can be hot and cold. For Maresca, it's just like, yeah, how long will he be able to keep that going there at Chelsea when every time they feel like they're getting there, they drop down? It's kind of similar to Eddie Howe. Like, are you the guy to take them forward? And again, he would probably argue that he needs to strengthen his defence and goalkeeper, which isn't wrong. But that's a good game. That will be one of my predictions at St James's Park, Newcastle, Chelsea, 12:30. It's a good game to kick the weekend off, actually. I'd be looking forward to watching that. Next one, we got Spurs and Liverpool at 5:30. Spurs and Thomas Frank. Again, that is one that really feels like he's on the verge. If it's a defeat this weekend, and if it's a heavy defeat, which I'm going to have a little look at the head-to-head just because of the amount of goals that typically be in this fixture, more so for Liverpool. Yeah, I think he's in a bit of trouble, and I don't know, like, Spurs' identity just seems to be completely lost. Just completely lost. I don't think Spurs know where they are. I don't think Spurs know who they're supposed to be. I think they have this concept and this image of the history of who they are, and you know, even in the 90s with like Ginola and stuff like that, all of those players, I think they have that in their head, but they just can't seem to be able to find it. You know, they really can't. You know, they've gone from like at Mourinho and Conte to then like Ange to now Thomas Frank, and it's just like, where are you? It's just so many extremes here. You're not really sticking with a continuity, similar types of managers, similar styles of managers. And it kind of feels like it's hampering him. And I think Thomas Frank's style of football is pragmatic. He would say he likes to go forwards, but I think it's pragmatic first. And I just think when you're not doing well, and when you're at Spurs with that concept of like, we want to be free-flowing and going forwards, I don't know. Like, I thought he would do a good job there, and I thought he would have he has the opportunity to prove himself at a club like that, right? But I don't know, it's not going well, and it's kind of like, to me, I think, can you be a bit more expansive, mate? Just like a little bit more. Not like Ange level of expansiveness, but just a little bit more expansive, because I think if not, it's not going to work out for you. And again, we talk about Wilfried Nancy at the start of this video in Scotland with Celtic. You know, you have to see what's in front of you and adapt to that as the manager. I think if you just continuously keep headbutting your wall against this is how I do things and this is how I play, like your core principles stay the same. I mean, look at Pep right now, right? Look at how Pep has decided to change and evolve himself and his team. He's decided to go ahead and do that when things were maybe slightly declining and things had caught up to him. He's decided to mix it up. So there's the guy that all of these guys have probably followed and have that, is doing that. And I think you need to look at him and say, yeah, there's There's times and there's moments when you need to do it in your career, and I think for Thomas Frank, this is one of those. For Liverpool, before we look at the head-to-head, just quickly with the goals, it's 2 from 2. It's a better feel about the place. It feels better balanced. It feels more compact. Salah's off to AFCON, so that stuff can quiet down a little bit now, and it's a chance for them to have a real run at it now, and it's a game where they'll be feeling comfortable that they can come in and get a win against Spurs, who are in that bad run of form, and Liverpool have typically got the better of in the last head-to-heads, which I'll look at. But look, they could still be fragile, Liverpool. We don't know. Absolutely, they're not there yet. They're not trialed and tested. They're not proven that they're going to go on this run again. But it does feel a lot better. I obviously put on my video about, Ekitike needs to be up top there for Liverpool, and it's the shape is changed under Arne Slot, the formation that he's changed. And again, he's had to adapt and do something there. It's kind of been the theme of this video here. He's had to adapt to the moment and adapt to the situation, and that is what he has done. And it's looking a lot better for Liverpool, and it's given players like Vert starting to just get a bit of a platform of things going. Ekitike's getting the goal, Szoboszlai in there. It's just helping everybody. It really, really is. Ibu Konate feels a bit more stable now in games. So it's just a case for Liverpool to just keep that going. And again, it will be one of my predictions. But let's have a little look at the head-to-heads just because of the amount of goals that are in this game. Just look at the goals, right? Look at the goals. Last game, Liverpool 5, Tottenham Hotspur 1. We know that wins Liverpool the league. League Cup, it's Liverpool 4, Spurs 0. League Cup before that, it's Tottenham 1-0 in the first leg. Then we got Liverpool 6-3 away at Spurs, Liverpool 4-2 at home at Spurs, and then Spurs beat Liverpool 2-1. So one thing we're guaranteed in this game is goals. And I think that Liverpool will be a little bit more compact, and so will Spurs be. So could that change? I don't know, right? Because Thomas Frank a bit more pragmatic. Arne Slot definitely been a bit more pragmatic as of late. But you've got to bank that Liverpool's attack is surely going to get them further forwards. And yeah, surely have a bit more goals in them anyway. Maybe that's just a bit of hope speaking from me. But interesting there with the goals and everything like that. Again, that will be one of my predictions that we will do. Just quickly, I think we go over Everton and Arsenal because City are at home to West Ham. And I expect City to win that game. And Pep Guardiola is right on you now, and he'll be thinking, yeah, we can win this title. I might not think that this team is fully polished and we're not going to be perfect, but I've seen a very interesting concept last season that said, like, we're Liverpool. Liverpool, what really fired them ahead of Arsenal and kept them going was the goals that they got because of the attacking options that they had. And you feel like what City do have, even though they might concede a couple, is they can blitz and score a lot of goals. Now, let's just have a little look at the league table for that, actually, in terms of goals scored. I mean, Arsenal still have got 30, and then City sit with 38. Arsenal's defence obviously conceded 10, City conceded 16 there. So, yeah, that's a bit of a factor. It's not massive, but I don't know. Maybe those more goals could just propel City and Arsenal. It's away to Everton. David Moyes will make that tricky. It's not an easy one for them there, and I expect City to have got the 3 points right heading into that game and to be ahead of them for the first time. And psychologically, how can they handle that? I watched Mikel Arteta's interview with Owen Hargreaves on the breakdown. There wasn't a lot to take from it, to be honest, but he feels like the squad is kind of all round ready to take that next step mentally and break that mental barrier. This is a big one this weekend to see how they do, so let's see what happens with that. And then Sunday, it's Villa and Man United. Villa on incredible form that we can see here. It's 5 from 5. Man United with that chaotic game against Bournemouth, and I said Man United feel like they're just kind of stuck in the middle with Ruben Amorim. Had a lot of good debates with people on here on YouTube and TikTok and stuff about, do you want Amorim in or out? How do you feel about it? And to be honest with you, most fans that were commenting were saying in. He needs time. He needs to get some more players in. We need to kind of churn some more people out, and I agree with that, absolutely. Is he just going to get enough results to be able to last that? I think one big thing for me, there's been a lot of talk about Bruno Fernandes, who's come out with a bit of a random kind of statement, a random kind of comment that he put out for the club, a statement. And I think he's a bit of an oxymoron for me for Manchester United, because I think the team fully embodies Bruno Fernandes. I really do. And what I mean by that is that they can be unbelievable, unplayable, especially going forwards. Amorim's really got that right. You have to give him credit for that, and that's the area that he's strengthened on. So, as the board and fans, you look and say, well, look, that's his kind of thing that he's built there up top. Let him build the midfield, let him build the defence. And I think with Bruno, you can look sublime sometimes, as can he, but there's also times it looks a bit all over the place. That characteristic of him throwing his arms up in the air, and, we know he's been asked to be subbed off against Liverpool years ago. So the team embodies the captain in him like that way. And yeah, it's an oxymoron because I think that, no doubt, he's been very, very good for Manchester United, and without him, they would not be where they are. They would be a lot worse off, in my opinion. But I think for this team to evolve, I actually think it is without Bruno Fernandes, to be honest. And I think his age and everything like that as well would play a factor in making it easier to move him on. And I think he feels that too with his statement, right? That he's put out that the fans and the club maybe don't quite appreciate what he's done for them. And I can get his point of view from that. But yeah, it's that oxymoron, mate. I think you're in the middle, and I do think Man United fans, let me know what you think. But I think you're better off without Bruno Fernandes moving forwards with the team. He's been amazing for you. He's done everything that he's supposed to do. But I think you're better moving forwards with him. So Villa, great run of form. They want to keep that going. They'll fancy it. It's always an interesting game between these two. And that's a good Sunday half 4 game to watch after Hearts Rangers at half 1. So that wraps it up, really. That really does wrap it up in terms of just kind of looking ahead to the weekend fixtures. It's an interesting one. It is, we're at the time now where every game, every win, every loss, every drop point feels big. Every game point feels big. And it's really, really good. And it's the exciting part. And we're coming up to Christmas. Is this the last little run of games before we get to Christmas? We maybe got one more round. Not quite too sure there. But hope everybody has a really good Christmas when it comes around. I know football is very important to a lot of people. So, get yourself out there, enjoy it, watch it. In the house, in the boozers with your pals. Boxing Day is a bit different this year, which seems a bit shit. We've just got Newcastle and Man United. But yeah, go out there and enjoy it. And as always, until the next one, have a good one. Peace.